Good morning, everyone, and welcome to All People's Church Unitarian Universalist. It is so good to see all of you today. Our Sunday service is a shared time of worship for all present, as we gather from music, spoken words, a time of reflection and inspiration as a religious community. Let us come together in a spirit of compassion and respect for ourselves and others attending this service. My name is Tina Harmuth, and I am your Co-Celebrant. We especially welcome those who are visiting today. If you haven't yet done so, please sign in at the visitors' table by the front door, where you can be placed on our mailing list to receive weekly emails and the monthly newsletter. We are honored to have the Reverend Denise Blakely here as our guest for the worship hour. More about Denise in a minute, but first, a couple of announcements. Our new plants that we have today are in memory of Harley Bindi, David Bindi's father. Also, voter registration is ongoing. Mary Kerwin, Colleen Brewer, and our DRE Sarah are all serving as deputy voter registrars. Check with them if you need to register, or if you have a friend who needs to register. The election is November 8th. And now we welcome Reverend Denise Bell Blakely to our pulpit. Denise comes to us by way of the Eastside Ministries Eastside Community Assistance Agency here in Fort Worth. Denise has served Texas Methodist congregations for 24 years in Ellis, Navarro, McLennan, and Tarrant counties. Being assigned to churches that were predominantly white in neighborhoods that were predominantly Hispanic and Black, her job was to build a bridge between the church and the neighborhood. Although now retired from the pulpit ministry, Denise is still an associate member of the Central Texas Conference and serves on the district committee on ministry. Denise has been a member of the trustee board of Eastside Ministries, Eastside Community Assistance, since 2015. She was voted president of the trustee board, executive director, in 2019, and says that her goal is to aid my brothers and sisters in finding a path out of poverty and hopelessness. Denise has been married to Marshall for 42 years, and they are parents to 3 sons, William, Evan, and Gregory. Denise considers her gifts to be evangelism, counseling, and logistics. Denise, welcome to All People's Church.
Thank you.
We'll now gather into a spirit of worship with our musical prelude. Our call to worship today is by the UU minister, Reverend Meg Barnhouse. We gather to worship, our hearts alive with hope that here we will be truly seen, that here we will be welcomed into the garden of this community, where the simple and the elegant, the fluted and frilled, the shy and the dramatic complement one another and are treasured. May we know that here each contributes in their own way to the beauty of the whole. Come, let us worship together, all genders, sexualities, politics, clappers and non-clappers, progressive or conservative. May we root ourselves in the values of this faith: compassion and courage, transcendence, justice and transformation, peace and love. Please stand for our chalice lighting, our opening hymn, and our spoken words of affirmation. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. Please join in singing our opening hymn, number 187, It Sounds Along the Ages. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. It is time for a story, so I invite those of you who would like to have a seat with me here, come do so. The name of this story is The Beautiful Tiger by Christopher Buse. Come along. There was once a beautiful and powerful tiger. One day she was captured by a mean and cruel man who put her into a cage. The man kept the cage in the jungle not far from his house. Every day he would bring out a bowl of water and some food for this very lonely tiger. Sometimes the tiger would see her own reflection in the bowl of water and she would say, I must be a beautiful tiger. When the man heard her say this, he would lie and tell her, no, you are not a beautiful tiger. You're very ugly. You're a pitiful creature. Sadly, the tiger would believe the man. Some days, after she ate her food, she would walk back and forth in her small cage and feel energy and power moving through her body. And she would say, I must be a powerful tiger. When the man heard her say this, he would lie and tell her, no, you are weak and puny. You are a pitiful creature. Sadly, the tiger would believe the man. Then one day, when the man was nowhere around, a lion happened to walk by the cage. He saw the tiger inside and spoke to her, beautiful and powerful tiger, what are you doing lying about in that cage? Do not make fun of me, replied the tiger. I know that I am neither beautiful nor powerful. I'm not making fun of you, said the lion. You are surely the most beautiful and powerful tiger I have ever seen. I am only surprised to see you lying here when you are clearly strong enough to break out of that cage. Do you really think I could break out of here? Asked the tiger. Quite easily, I should think, replied the lion. The tiger was not so sure at first. She had been told so many times that she was a weak and pitiful creature. But suddenly it seemed that she could feel energy and strength moving through her body. She began to pace back and forth in her cage, and then, almost without thought, she leapt against the cage door, and it flew open without any resistance. Once outside, she seemed dazed. That cage didn't even have a lock on it, she said. I spent so much of my life stuck in there, and the lock wasn't even locked. The lion looked at her and said, with soft brown eyes, those kinds of traps don't need locks, for it is the lies we believe in that keep us in our cages, and it is the truth that sets us free. Let us now sing the children out with our recessional, which is number 414 in the gray hymnal. For the gifts which we receive and the gifts which we ourselves are, may we be truly grateful. May we be committed to using these gifts to make a difference in the world, to increase love and justice, to decrease hate and oppression, to expand beloved community, to share and to keep sharing. Your contributions will benefit the missions of our church, and also they'll act as an outreach to the larger community as part of our Share the Plate program. Our designated recipient this month is the Eastside Community Assistance Agency in Fort Worth. The offering will now be gratefully received. Will the ushers please come forward?
Our reading this day is coming from Romans chapter 12, verse 2. It's a very short reading, but it sort of encapsulates what transformation is all about. The reading is as follows. And don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Our next hymn is hymn number 298, Wake Now My Senses.
We honor our time together with shared stories and news from the congregation. Each week there is a journal outside the entrance to the sanctuary where you can write a message of memory or hope. Also, at any time during our service, you are welcome to come forward and light a candle in our meditation center here at the side of our chancel. We are also reminded of the many people in the world who are burdened by sickness, hunger and pain, by sorrow and anxiety, by violence and loss. We pause this morning to share our concern and care for these people, and also for those closer to home about whom we are concerned. We extend our deepest condolences to our friend and member Jean Bertel Morris, whose brother Ben took his own life this week. The family is grateful that in the middle of their grief, they are comforted by the fact that Ben was able to be an organ donor for several different recipients. Jean says that a memorial service is pending, and she'll be glad to share information when it is finalized. And today we remember and reach out with our hearts to those who lost family members, friends, co-workers, and those who lost their lives on 9/11 21 years ago. May the warmth of this community extend to all who are rejoicing or hurting in our wider world. The stories that live in this community are cherished, even when unshared, as we keep one another in mind during the coming week. We now ask you to settle comfortably and pause for a few moments of quiet meditation to hold and uplift the sorrows and celebrations, both spoken and unspoken, among us.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Every day above the ground is a good day. It is. It is. We're going to enter into conversation together some of the do's and don'ts of transformation or the transformational life. The best way I can start this off is by example. When I was 3 years old, I wanted to be a wrestler. I came from a family of Army people, and they loved all the tackle sports. So by the time I was 3 and 4 years old, I was practicing full Nelsons and things like that. And if I'm only 5 feet tall now, you can only imagine how short I was when I was 3. When I was 7 years old, I was convinced that I wanted to be a nun. I went to Catholic school all my life, and I thought that to get a cool uniform like that, I would do anything. Just the best. You even had a nice little hood thing, kept the sun off you. It was just wonderful. I was going to sign up for the whole thing when I was 7. By the time I was in middle school, I was Wiccan. Yes. Very few preachers will admit that stuff, but Me and my gang of girls, we were into just light and magic and all that kind of stuff. I was raised by my grandmother. My grandmother was Pentecostal, so needless to say, I had to keep that to myself. By the time I was 21, I fell in love with a man of the Muslim faith, and I was going to convert. But then the relationship didn't work out, and neither did the conversion. And all those roads led to me becoming a pastor in the United Methodist Church. Transformation is a wonderful thing if you let it be. The process of change is something that is dictated in part by circumstance, but mostly what's within your own heart. Whenever we enter into a conversation, and this is a conversation, I have no problems with people interrupting me, okay? Whenever we enter into a conversation about transformation, one of the first things I'd like to say right off the bat is that we all know people who need to change. That is not our job. It's not our job. Everybody is on a journey. All of us are on a journey. I had to decide that I was too short to be a wrestler. No one else could make me do that. The more we try to fix and change people, the more futile their journey is in your eyes. To respect each individual journey, you have to let people be. You can suggest, you can come alongside and love them, which I'm going to discuss toward the end of our conversation. But as far as trying to fix them, we have to, first of all, accept everybody for who they are at that moment of time in their life. If I hadn't been allowed to become Wiccan, I would not have learned about spiritual things. And if I hadn't learned about spiritual things, I might not have been led into the life that I live now. But that is a process that I had to go through to get to where I am now. And I'm not finished. And I'm still a piece of dough that needs to be in the oven, okay? And still needs to be cooked a little bit. That's ever change. It's never going to change. Change is something that's never going to change. Accept it. Accept it. I promised that I would talk about the things that transformation does not do and the things that transformation is not. Transformation is not conforming to the person that I know the best. Transformation is not conforming to the things of this world so I can go along to get along. Transformation is living a sort of a cocooned life to where that mariposa, that butterfly in you, has everything it needs to be birthed, everything that it needs to become who you are. When I do marriage counseling, I tell the couples that the perfect marriage, if that's what you want, is an environment where you both grow to be who you were both supposed to be, if that makes sense. Everyone in a relationship is supposed to be free to be wherever their transformation takes them. Control does not enter in the equation. All we can do is guide and love someone. Transformation is a lifetime work. It has to do with relationships, it has to do with resources, and it has to do with practice. But the main thing it has to do with, at the beginning, who are you? And I'm not talking about those negative things that we tell ourselves about ourselves. Who are you? Who are you really? Who are you? What do you like? What makes you happy? Because you have to start from somewhere. You cannot start the transformative work in a situation of chaos, because chaos is a very loud voice, and chaos will take you wherever chaos wants it to take you. You cannot follow chaos and be transformed or even learn anything. You have to know who you are, what makes you happy. How do you feel about where you're going? Because we're all still books that we are writing ourselves. Each and every person in here is their own novel. And I'm going to segue into this. Be careful. Be careful of coveting other people's lives, because we don't know the struggle it took for them to get where they are. You know, a lot of times when we see these things that they're bright, shiny, and we're looking at bright, shiny people, and we don't know the journey that they took. Especially when I speak to adolescents, it's like, watch who you make your leader. Watch who you try to model. Because all you're seeing is maybe 1.1% of that person's life. You don't know the whole of it. And you don't know what it took to get them to those nice, shiny places. Be committed to doing the work that takes you where you need to go. One of the main things about transformation that we all of us have changed. None of us are 3 years old anymore. I don't see any 3-year-olds anyway. Yeah, we've all changed quite a bit. Some of it was glorious, some of it was shameful. Some of it was hurtful. A lot of it was hurtful. Change hurts. And that's just the way it is. Change does hurt, but when you come out on the other side, it's such a freedom, such a beauty that you're now baked cookies instead of cookie dough. It's a wonderful thing. But it takes faithfulness to the path that you've chosen. All of us are on a path, each and every one of us. To be faithful to the path that you've chosen means to be committed to where you're going. Committed to where you're going, and a type of comfort as far as where you are. Let me explain that. Everyone has to start with a foundation. You have to have a foundation. I have never seen a house built on shifting sand that would last more than the next time the tide rolls in, right? You have to be foundational. Figure out what your foundation is, okay? My sister, who's probably the happiest gay person in DeSoto, Texas, my sister told me one time that it's not gay that defines me, it's my foundation that defines me. And she told me that part of my foundation as a gay woman is to first accept myself as a gay woman. And then I asked her, we were real young when we had this conversation. I think we were in our 20s. And so I said, well, explain to me what it means for your foundation, that being a gay woman is part of your foundation. And she just looked at me and smiled and says, honey, it has to be part of my foundation, because when I come out, there will be so many people that want to take a sledgehammer to my foundation. So first, commit to your foundation. Whoever you are at that base, be proud of it. Be happy about it. But be very, very determined to defend, to protect, to love everything about your foundation. Okay? Then as you move on into the transformational life, get transformational knowledge. Knowledge is a lifetime thing. Read all you can, study all you can, talk to all the people you can. I mentioned people who seem to have had it all together. Talk to them. If you know someone who you think and you feel made it to some sort of pinnacle that you might aspire to, talk to them, because it's very, very revelation giving. I talked to Bishop T.D. Jakes one time, not because it's somewhere where I wanted to be. I don't ever want to be in charge of that many people, ever, because I know myself. Colleen knows me pretty well. I had a hard time being in charge of Eastside Ministries. I don't know if I could be in charge of millions and millions of people. But I had a conversation with him, and this is what he told me. He said, at the very base, I'm still that hillbilly from West Virginia. At my foundation, I'm still that man who used to have to wash his suits. I'm still that man who was on welfare at one point in time. I'm still that man who got their car towed for not paying it and lights going off because I couldn't pay my electric bill. He said, because if I ever forgot about all that, I could not do what I'm doing now. He said, and to be frank, there's this big part of me that part of my transformational work was to never, ever, ever be in dire straits again. Which brings me to this. If you have a mantra, something inside of you that keeps you motivated and keeps you going, use that and expound on that. Use it to figure out how you think and how you operate in this world. You know, even in meditation, and this is what I love so much about meditation. I did yoga from the time I was 14 until I was about 40, because then I had kids and it was very, very hard. So, but one thing about meditation is that it gives you a chance and an opportunity to figure out how you think. What are your patterns? Remember, you are a book. So since you're your own book, shouldn't you know your own preface, your own body of work? Shouldn't you know how the story continues? Figure out how you think. What patterns do you have? And do you have any self-sabotaging patterns? When I first entered the world of work, my biggest self-sabotaging pattern was that I didn't know how to dress, right? And this was back in the 70s and 80s when, you know, there was really a uniform to go interview for a job. And I would always come in my Converse because my feet hurt. I could not wear heels. So I thought that every interviewer would overlook that because I'm trying to take care of my own person, right? Well, no. I noticed that every job interview I went to in those cons, I would never get the job. So I had to sacrifice and put on those little kitten heels. They even hurt, but I did it, and I started getting jobs. What's the lesson in this? There's a time and a place for everything. Watch your self-sabotaging behavior. Learn how you think and learn how you operate in this world, because how can you transform into what you want to be if you don't know who you are and how you think? The path is a humble path. The path to transformation is a very humble path. You're learning everything. You are observing everything. You're going into the transformational life as a pilgrim and a humble soul. Because this life of yours is going to take you places that you have never, ever dreamed of. And so keep in mind, whenever you're going to a place that you've never been, you have to be humble enough to learn the language of that place. Learn the places. Learn the good places to go and the bad places to go. I went to New Orleans one time, and I had a guide, but I wanted to go off the beaten path. I ended up with my kids in the Voodoo Museum, which was cool for me, not so much for my children. You have to be humble on this path. Learn what you can, but respect your journey and the journey of those who are sent to you to be the lights in your journey. It's a humble path. I hesitate on this one because this is the one I had the hardest part with as I changed through the years. You're going to have to stretch. You're going to have to stretch. Those of us over 65, that's hard. I'm just going to be honest. You're going to have to stretch. You're going to have to stretch the way you think. You're going to have to stretch some of the things you believe. For the transformation that you want to take place to happen, you're going to have to stretch. I can't build a new house with old wood. I can't build a new house with old wood. You're going to have to stretch and start to absorb some things. I have some friends now, my age and a little older, who still don't use the internet. But they come to my house and ask me and my husband to help them with the internet. So one day this happened, and our friend, we told him, look, you know what? We're not going to do it for you this time, but we're going to teach you how to do it. And that took a while because you love your friends and you do anything for your friends. But every now and then, you have to be the transformational light for someone, as in your heart dictates. So we taught him how to use the internet. the things that you need and want in this life, at some point in all our lives, we figure out that if it's to be, it's up to me. If it's to be, it's up to me. I've got to go get it. I've got to figure out how to do it. I've got to take that first step. I have to not pay attention to how big and wide the river is. I have to learn how to swim. I hope I'm making sense. All of us are blessed. Each and every person in here is blessed with having what I like to call a co-creator. A co-creator is that person that supports you on your transformational journey. A co-creator is that person that you can always lean on. Tell them your best and tell them your worst. You know, when I told my husband that I was into witchcraft from the ages of 12 till I was about 15, he freaked a little bit. Just a tiny little bit. But then he understood that all that went into making who I am. You must have a co-creator. Your transformational work is not done in a vacuum. There has to be someone. And if you don't have that someone, then you find that someone. Because none of this can be done alone. None of it. None of it can be done alone. Transformation starts on the inside. And then from your heart, it goes to your mind. And from your mind, it goes to action. But somewhere between the heart, the mind, and the action, there has to be a sounding board. Someone that you can just throw that stuff up against the wall and just have them give you honest opinions. One of the biggest fallacies about transformation is that we need someone to give us an attaboy or validate everything we do. I am glad that in my life, I had people who did not validate everything I did. I do not need yes people in my life, and neither do you. You need that honest person, that person who will call you out on your mess. You need that person who, when you are on the right path, sometimes you even need a person to tell you how happy you are. Because if you have been in this life long enough, sometimes we get so motivated and so hard at work doing the things that we think we need to do that we forget to be happy, and we forget to laugh, and we forget to have a little fun. And we all need someone that says, hey, let's take a little daycation somewhere. If it's just going to like Sanger or Denton, get away for a little while, because you've done good work, but you also need to rest. We all need to process the changes that have already happened within us. There's no skipping a step in this. As you change, every now and then you have to stop and take a little inventory. As life changes, you have to stop and take some inventory. All of the hard life stuff, the stuff that we grieve, the stuff that makes us ecstatic, the stuff that elevates us, we still have to take that time and process. We all have to, because we could miss it. We could miss the lesson, and there's a lesson in everything, good or bad. There's always a lesson. You have to take gratitude on your transformational journey. Grateful for all that has come your way, because everything is leading you to that place where you have designed in your heart to be. Grateful for the jobs I didn't get, because I probably wouldn't have been happy anyway. Grateful for the people that didn't love me, because I was being set up for someone who would love me. Grateful for every bump and bruise. Grateful for everything, because if you take the time to look at it and look back, it all fit. It all fit. It all fit. I like to call the good friends or the good people or the good mentors in your life fruit inspectors. We were all put in this world to bear fruit. Now, this is the good works that we do, helping other people. I thank you in advance for what you're doing for Eastside Ministries, because we help a lot of people, not just feeding, not just clothing, but we also counsel people on how to break out of poverty. See, we want the whole thing. We're greedy. at Eastside, we don't just want to feed and clothe. We want to teach people how to break those bonds of poverty, break institutionalized poverty, how to get the tools to stand up and be where you want to be, not us dictating it. We want to help suss out those things that a lot of people in dire straits haven't even dared to think about because it was too hurtful to think that I'd be able to feed my kids, too hurtful to think that I would ever have a good job, too hurtful to think that I would ever own my own home. And what we serve to do is to break those negative thought patterns and give people tools and access to things that they were afraid to dream of. But you need a fruit inspector. Those friends and mentors I was talking about, every now and then open yourself up to accountability. Open yourself up to have someone really kind of tell you how it's going. Are you bearing fruit? Or is it or is it self-serving? Are you not only transformational, but helping to transform the world? Or are you keeping all that goodness to yourself? Every now and then, we need someone to be our fruit inspectors. I'm not going to go very much longer. The only other thing that I have to tell you about transformation is that you have to be purposeful. You have to be purposeful. If there's something that you want to change, or if you feel a change coming, because a lot of times, this is not something that you create in yourself. Transformation is not always, well, I'm waking up this morning and I'm going to change my lip color because the ones I use don't fit any clothing I have. It's not like that. A lot of times, transformation overtakes you before you realize it. The world has changed. Your neighborhood has changed. Social things have changed. Your status has changed. We're growing older. I knew at 50 that I would have to get used to transformational things because, and a lot of people can relate, some of them in their 30s, there's a pain that hits you at a certain age that you've never felt before. However, you know it's going to be with you the rest of your life. All of us. With me, it was my knee. Where I used to be able to run, one day when I was 50, this pain hit my knee. It's still my friend. I carry it with me wherever I go. And that forced me to get into a transformational state about my physicality because I want to continue to do this well into my hundreds. So I had to make up my mind. If that was the warning shot, then I need to do something about it. How many of you here have already had a warning shot? I know that's right. I know that's right. The warning shot, the thing that has come your way to let you know that change is inevitable, that you've got to figure out a way to negotiate and navigate, to be purposeful about what you want to do. Some of us want to overcome stuff. Some of us want not to just overcome, some of us want to change the world, and it can change. And that change starts with inside of you. We practice those things that these changes have taught us. We just don't learn it and leave it on a shelf. We continue to practice wherever our transformation has taken us. Practice it and practice it again and do it again. Be honest with everyone and be honest with yourself about where these changes are going. And then the last point, you'll know you're on the right path. You'll know you're on the right path to transformation and loving who you are and letting you just become that mariposa, that butterfly that you're supposed to be. How you'll know it is because all of a sudden the criticism will come. That's how you know you're on the right path. Every criticism is a rung on the ladder to your success. Let them talk. Let them criticize. This is a wig, okay, because I'm very honest. I have a lot of hair, which is why I wear a wig, because I don't like combing my hair. So I've always had a lot of hair. When I was in my 30s and 40s, I would have people who would walk up to me because I just let it be free, the way it was given to me. I let it afro up. I let it part itself. It leaned to this. Whatever my hair wanted to do, I let it do. because I was happy with my hair. I would have so many people walk up to me and say, oh man, you need to straighten that. You need to go to a beauty shop or something. Because see, I was already feeling beautiful within my own skin in my 20s and 30s. This is my journey. And I used to wonder, what would be the perfect comeback for that? I didn't know, because people would, I mean, really, it was a lot of hair, y'all. One day I'll bring a picture, and people couldn't help but want to help me. So one day, I'm walking in downtown Dallas. A stranger woman walks up to me and says the same thing. You know, if I had all that hair, I'd do something about it. Why don't you do something about it? And then it's like out of the blue. Evidently, my growth was just on point. I looked at her and I said, you know what? If you will give me the money to get my hair done and come with me, I will do this bad boy any way you want. And I started saying that on a regular basis. People stopped bothering me. Stop bothering me. That's right. Put your money where your mouth is. You want to see me help? Okay. The moral of the story is, in spite of criticism, in spite of what may be said about you, take that as part of the transformational journey. Take that as a sign that you are on the right path, that you are doing the right thing. Let no criticism, let no naysayer stop you from who you're supposed to be and where you're supposed to go. This is the way of the universe. This is the way of our lives. Far be it from us not to change with a changing universe. Let the transformational work do its job. Grab the happiness that comes along this journey. We will now have our closing hymn, number 108. My life flows. Am I doing right? All right. Transformation. I got something right. Okay. We will now have our closing hymn, number 108. My life flows on in endless song.
we extinguish the chalice here so that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light your path as you leave this place. May it guide your way until we are together again. The service has ended. Go in peace. We invite you to stay and join us for refreshments and conversation here in the library to the rear of the sanctuary.